speak to you, Dr. Benjamin Carson.
It's a real honor and a pleasure to be here at Oral Roberts University, a place that I have known about since I was a little kid. And I used to watch Oral Roberts on television on Sunday mornings, and particularly the healing services. And when my kids were little and they would act up, I would go up to them, I'd put my hand in their head and I'd say, heal! And it worked. They all turned out okay. But I just wanted to talk to you for a few minutes today before we get to the real important stuff, which is the conferring of degrees, on some of the things that happened in my life. First of all, I have to tell you that the only thing I ever wanted to do was be a doctor. I used to listen to the mission stories in church and Sabbath school. They frequently featured missionary doctors who travel all over the world at great personal expense to bring not only physical but mental and spiritual healing to people. They seem like the most noble people on the face of the earth. So I decided when I was 8 years old that I would become a missionary doctor. And that was my dream from the age of 8 until 13. At which time, having grown up in dire poverty, I decided I'd rather be rich. So at that point, missionary doctor was out and psychiatrist was in. Now, I didn't know any psychiatrists, but on television they seemed like rich people. You know, they drove Jaguars, lived in the fancy mansions, plush offices, and all they had to do was talk to crazy people all day. It seemed like I was doing that anyway, so I said, you know, this is going to work out extremely well. And, you know, I started reading Psychology Today. I was the local shrink in high school. Everybody brought me with problems. Stroke my chin. Say, tell me about your mama. And then, you know, I majored in psychology in college. I did advanced psych in medical school. But then, I started meeting a bunch of psychiatrists. Need I say more? Nah, I'm just kidding. Some of my best friends are psychiatrists. But what I discovered very quickly is what psychiatrists do in real life and what they do on television are two completely different things. What they do in real life is much more important than what they do on television. They're some of the more intellectual members of the medical community. But it really wasn't what I was cut out to do. And I said, Lord, help me to figure out what I should be doing. I believe God gives everybody special gifts and talents. So I started looking back at my life and asking, what am I really, really good at? And I realized I had a lot of hand coordination, the ability to think in 3 dimensions. I was a very careful person. I never knocked things over and said, oops, which is a great characteristic of a brain surgeon.
In the call?
And I love to dissect things. So I put all that together with my love of the brain, and I said, you should become a neurosurgeon. And that really is how I made that decision. And that's a very important principle. You know, as you're making decisions about your life and in which direction to go, if you can coordinate with the talent, the special talent that God has given you, go much further and much faster. It makes all the difference in the world. Now, just one brief moment before I go on, I want to make a disclaimer. You know, nowadays everybody makes disclaimers. Have you noticed that? They say, I'm on this board, or, you know, I get paid by this organization, so you have to take everything with a grain of salt. Well, what I have noticed in recent years is that it's virtually impossible to talk to a large group of people these days without offending someone. Have you noticed how that works? You know, when I was growing up, people used to say, sticks and stones break my bones, but names will never hurt me. When's the last time you heard that? People don't say that anymore. Names kill people now. People walk around with their feelings on their shoulder, waiting for somebody to say something. Did you hear what they said? And then they can't hear anything else. I was talking to a group once about the difference between a human brain and a dog's brain. And the man got offended. He said, you can't talk about dogs like that. then I was talking to a group about how the fashion industry has gotten the young women to think they're supposed to be so skinny they look like they escaped from a concentration camp. And a Jewish man got offended. He said, "You can't mention concentration camps. That's too sensitive. It would be if I said something to you about slavery." I said, "You can talk about slavery all you want. It doesn't bother me. But some people just like to get offended." So, here's my disclaimer. Not my intention to offend anyone here today. And if anyone is offended, too bad. Because I have to tell you, I do not believe in political correctness.
Amen to that.
I think it's one of the most destructive forces to hit our country. And it seems to me when I was studying history, a lot of the people who came here from other lands came to escape from people who were trying to tell them what they could say and what they could think. And here we come reintroducing it through the back door. And I think the founding fathers would turn over in their graves if they could see that. And what we need to do, and particularly you young people, can make such a big difference. When you go out, say what you mean and mean what you say. And don't let somebody else constrain you and say that you have to say this and you have to act this way, that you cannot say Merry Christmas, that you cannot do all kinds of things. Don't believe it. Because it only takes force. It only takes force if you accept it and you allow it. But we have to be willing to say what we believe. I'm reminded of a young businessman, very successful, and he loved to buy wonderful gifts for his mother for Mother's Day. And he was running out of ideals, and then he came across these birds, these exotic, very expensive birds. They were $5,000 each, but they could dance, they could sing, they could talk. He bought 2 of them. He sent them to his mother. He couldn't wait to call her on Mother's Day. And he called her up, "Mother, what did you think of those birds?" And she said, "They was good." He said, no, you didn't eat them. No, Mother, those birds cost $5,000 each. They could dance, they could sing, they could talk. And she said, "Well, they should have said something." And, isn't that where we end up if we don't speak up? And this too, on a more serious note. Now think about this. Most of those people in Nazi Germany did not believe in what Hitler was doing. Did they say anything? No. They kept their mouths shut. And look what happened. And don't think the same thing can't happen in this country that we love if we keep silent and we don't speak up for what we believe. Well, all going on, there were a lot of problems along the way to me realizing my dream of becoming a physician, not the least of which was the fact that my parents got divorced. That was devastating. My mother was one of 24 children, got married at age 13. Whoa. She and my father moved from rural Tennessee to Detroit.